It's all about the soul and how our soul comes into this life carrying a code, including the memories from the past that we need to heal and resolve this time around. I've been fascinated many times over the years when I say to people, did you know that psyche is the ancient Greek word for soul? Excuse me, I've met psychologists that sort of didn't know that. So I simply say that the horoscope is the soul's code. It's the blueprint, and it's carrying the agenda, including our unresolved stuff. And I think that's a really important idea. In that sense, I'm kind of pretty left-brain scientific when I begin to play with ideas around soul, not so much the sort of new age, you know, isn't everybody lovely, let's all be sweetness and light. It's all about, there's a much deeper agenda going on when we look at the soul, because we've all got stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, I simply say, didn't you know that life is simply here, all about healing our stuff? So when I first started getting into astrology, I was delighted. It was in the early 80s. I'd always loved it since I was a kid, but I began to study it seriously in the early 80s, and I really was captured by the psychological astrology. It was like, oh, wow, this is very cool. Loved psychology. And I learned that you could understand our unconscious patterning by looking at the planets in aspect. So that captured me initially, and I looked at my own aspects and I didn't like some of them. So off I went to psychotherapy, you see. So one thing led to another, and I sort of accidentally became a psychotherapist over several decades, really, as I gradually integrated many different kinds of therapies. Because what I came to see was, it's all very well to know what the unconscious patterns are, but what do we do about it? That's what the clients say. I mean, I've been working full time with client work for over 30 years, and that's the simple bottom line question. What do I do about it? So I use the psychotherapies to heal and resolve and support reprogramming of limiting patterns. So after a while, I thought, oh, this is interesting, and I kept going, as you do with astrology. It's such a fabulous subject, isn't it? There's so many ways you can play in it. And I began to study esoteric astrology and the ideas around the soul. And so that was kind of like, now I've really hit pay dirt, because from there I began to come onto the, understanding that we use the moon in the horoscope to diagnose the soul's information. The moon is said to be a dead planet. She only reflects the sun's light. So she's the repository of all the soul's memories. So this became interesting. I went, okay, well, if the soul is seen through the moon, and the soul has this information and this memory system in our DNA, then how does the soul program the psyche? So that became my $64 million question. And I went, okay, well, I went to the early childhood developmental models in psychology, where we're told that we are programmed in the early family. Then as a child, we have the primary caregivers, mother and father, as we'll see, sun and moon, and they deliver us messages, quote unquote. Some of these are verbal, but many of them are non-verbal. And we make early decisions that set up our core beliefs. So some of these beliefs will be quite functional and leave us with healthy, attributes and qualities that we don't have to work on. But the very idea that the soul has to set up this material that it has to heal and resolve assures us that some of the early decisions will set up core beliefs that limit us in some way. And these become where we will experience our patterns repeatedly, where we end up in the same old territory going, oh my God, I'm here again. How did this happen? Despite my best efforts not to, okay? So this is the sort of matrix of what I'm playing with as I begin to work with the idea around linking the psychological moon with the soul-centered moon and how all this goes together. And then how the aspects to the moon give us the information about what the soul's carrying from the past that may need to be healed or resolved, which is coming in through the hard aspects. So here's my simple call around sun and moon as the primary matrix of the double helix and the DNA code. So it was Jung that first gave us this primary idea that the psyche exists in a perpetual state of tension between the urge for the safety of the moon and the daring of the sun. And of course, Jung was an astrologer, bless him. And, you know, when you start to get down into the core ideas around psychology, I'm always fascinated that in these two simple symbols, we have an exact and amazingly deep representation of the psychological structure. So one of the, I think, popular misconceptions of that sun sign astrology has given us is that we are our sun sign, because we're actually not. We're in a state of becoming our sun sign for all of our lives, because the sun carries the qualities and the territory that we must learn to develop to become free to be me, where I'm able to use my creativity with passion and joy and power, and I'm an individual and I'm authentic. And it's the heroic, you know, it's that part of me that never stops daring to keep growing and becoming more of who I am. So the moon, in that sense, becomes what's old and familiar, because she's carrying the soul's code. And so psychologically, the moon is my right to be free to feel and have needs and be emotionally safe and to nurture and so on. And so she's carrying the soul's purpose and the soul's, you know, stuff, as I have said. And our moon needs to be in good condition, I call it, so she can nurture our sun. Now, to me, that is a simple but very profound idea, because often, and I'm speaking as a woman here, and and within the feminine, you know, genetically and also in terms of our programming, we're encouraged to nurture all those wonderful qualities of the sun, usually in everybody but ourselves. So it's really important that we get hold of this idea that we need to be safe to feel our needs and be emotionally able to nurture and support our own sun. So as you look at the whole idea of the programming, then the mother is carrying the soul's code, and so her early messages is setting up our right to feel and have needs and be emotionally safe. Plus, she's also carrying the theme of, or she and her line, the matrilineal line, are carrying the themes of the soul's story. And so she's setting all that up for us. And of course, Father is setting up the sun. So our job is to create the alchemical marriage so we can fulfill the ability for the soul to nurture our creative ego. And to me, that's a very powerful idea. I share this with just about every client. This is really the sort of core stuff as far as I'm concerned. So my entry into the chart is through the moon.